I'm still just aghast that arguably the most respected news organization in America, CBS News, was unwilling to provide the American people with what I think any journalism school graduate, and I'm not claiming to be one, but would tell you is one of the principal goals or purposes or missions of journalism, which is to accurately inform people, to make sure that people have accurate information as opposed to believing lies. And I'm guessing, I could be wrong, I haven't seen anything on either side of this. I haven't seen anything arguing that this is the case or that it's not the case, but my guess is that the Vance campaign told CBS that JD would not show up unless they refused to fact check. That I can't imagine that CBS would just come up with that out of nowhere. Although maybe they did. Maybe they're just that afraid of Republicans. I mean, keep in mind, in this day and age, if you can't get people to come on your program for these guest-driven kinds of programs, there's a couple of different kinds of programming in radio and television. You've got news-driven programming, you've got guest-driven programming, you've got listener-driven programming, and then you've got host-driven programming. These are the four basic kind of categories of how you put together programs in the news space. And this is a host-driven program, for example, you're listening to right now. 9 times out of 10 is you and me. Occasionally we have guests on, but it's not my show wouldn't die if Republicans refused to come on my program. In fact, for the last couple of years, Republicans have refused to come on the program. We've invited many Republicans on this. They used to come on all the time and debate me. But that's not the case with CBS News and ABC and NBC. If the Republicans were to boycott one of those networks, their guest-driven programs, their Face the Nation kind of shows, would die, and they know it. So, it could be that they were just afraid of the Republicans, that they were successfully intimidated. I don't know. But the depth and breadth of the lies, it was just, I think, breathtaking. Just to quickly go through a few of them. And this is from CBS News itself, by the way, cbsnews.com. They said Vance claims Trump peacefully gave over power on January 20th. They identified that as misleading. Yeah, you think? Peaceful? January 6th, yeah, that was very peaceful. He said this is a lie, JD Vance. He said Iran received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to Kamala Harris. Well, first of all, the assets are only $50 billion. Secondly, the $50 billion has not been given to Iran. That's a lie, too. And the reason it has not been given to Iran is because Trump pulled us out of the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. And so, I mean, this was just a lie within a lie within a lie that Vance just made up this BS. Vance also said that Trump could have destroyed Obamacare, but chose to instead improve it. Well, no, actually, in 2017, Trump said, quote, I want to let Obamacare fail and then come together and do a great health care plan to replace it. Obamacare enrollments actually flattened out somewhat during the Trump administration because he cut the budget for advertising the fact that, hey, it's the enrollment period, you can sign up. So he did try to kill Obamacare, or at least he tried to kneecap it. Vance lied about that. Vance claimed that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost 320,000 children. Again, another lie. 32,000 unaccompanied minors have not shown up at immigration court hearings. These are young people, under 18 who came across the border unaccompanied, who were given status and told, come into court, on this date, and sometimes these dates are 5, 6, 7 years down the road. That's how long it's taking. That's why this legislation that came out of the Senate would have reduced that down to 6 months, as Tim Walz pointed out last night. But that's 32,000, number one, kids who haven't shown up for their hearings. That doesn't mean that they're lost or trafficked or anything else. You know, it probably means that the government doesn't know where they are to notify them of their hearing, number one. And number two, there's 291,000 children altogether that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has not yet issued court notices to. 291,000 who came across, again, unaccompanied. But they're not lost in the system. The system just has not reached out to them yet. So this is just another piece of BS from JD Vance. Also, this is Tim. Now, they also fact-checked Tim Walz. He said border crossings are down compared to when Donald Trump left office. That is true. Vance lied. He said Vice President Harris became the appointed border czar. Sorry, that did not happen. She was asked to work out things with El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Guatemala to reduce the root causes of immigration, and she actually did. She did some very good work down there. Tim Walz, he was fact-checked, and they said mostly true. He claimed that Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops, and they received traumatic brain injury, and Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. I remember when that happened. We talked about that in this program. In response to Trump assassinating Mr. Suleiman, or General Suleiman, if I'm remembering his name correctly, the Iranians threw some missiles into an American military encampment in Iraq, and a number of American soldiers suffered burst eardrums, and many of them suffered traumatic brain injury. I mean, this was a serious injury to these young people. And Donald Trump made a joke about it and said that they were headaches. I mean, you know, Donald Trump basically hates anybody who serves in the military. He thinks they're suckers and losers. Tim Walz claimed that Vance in the past has said that there's a climate problem and that Trump called climate change a hoax. The CBS News rates that as true. Tim Walz told the truth. Tim Walz claimed that patients had to pay $800 for insulin before passage of the Inflation Reduction Act during the Biden administration. The CBS News rates that as true. Tim Walz claims Project 2025 makes it hard to get contraception and access to fertility treatments. CBS News rates that as true, although they say it needs context. The context would be that Project 2025 is not the law of the land, it's a proposal. Tim Walz, this is the only thing that CBS News basically said Tim Walz was wrong about. He said Trump hasn't paid taxes in 15 years. And this is where a word counts, right? Tim Walz said Donald Trump hasn't paid taxes in 15 years. Well, the New York Times said that Donald Trump didn't pay taxes for 15 years. That was in the years prior to his running for president. But in the years since then, he paid $750 in income taxes in both 2016 and 2017. So, and he paid no federal income tax in 2020, but for 15 years, according to the New York Times before this. So, you know, they're saying this was Walz getting it wrong, right? Because he said in 15 years rather than for 15 years. And then, of course, JD Vance claimed prescription drugs are up 7% under Biden, but only 1.5% under Trump. That's a lie. They were up 9% under Trump, and they're up 11% under Biden. And, of course, Biden is having to deal with the dramatic inflation. This is the result of Trump mishandling, bungling, screwing up, intentionally screwing up the response to the pandemic. Vance also claimed that Harris has not invested in clean air, clean water, or climate policy. Those are all lies under the Biden administration, according to CBS News. $370 billion came out of the Inflation Reduction Act for those things. Tim Walz claimed that, quote, the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history, a 30% decrease in Ohio. CBS News rates that as true. So here we have Tim Walz getting only one thing wrong, and that was missing one word. And JD Vance being nailed for lie after lie after lie by CBS News, the people who said, oh, yeah, we're not going to fact check live in real time, but we will in print later. And they did, and I just shared it with you. So how is it that the majority, if you look at the polls, the majority of Americans who watched the debate think that Tim Walz won? Excuse me, think that JD Vance won. Two guys with one-syllable names that end with an S. This is a tough one. We'll be right back with your calls. What are your thoughts on this?